Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I run and drive, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I run and drive, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What's up, you guys? You ready for news? I'm ready for news.
It's news time.
Blunty, you ready for news?
Let's do the news.
It's the news time. Welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm Joshua Bardwell.
And I am ItsBlunty.
It's Blunty. I meant to put a title on your. You asked me to put a little title on your screen. It's Blunty because people don't know how to spell your name. It's Blunty, and it's Blunty is your name.
Yes, that's correct. It's Blunty. That is 100%.
Thank you guys for coming out. Andrew Young, we are going to give you all the news. Russ, we will not be doing sexy news. I'm not Blunty.
Nope, not today.
You have luxurious hair, but
If you consider the news that we do sexy, that is on you.
right. I mean, I can't stop you from finding it sexy,
Yes.
but I don't want to hear about it. Blunty, how many quads do you have back there? Somebody's asking in the chat. You have more quads than I do, I think.
Total, I have no idea. Working, probably like 4. So
Yeah, same here. I had four working quads. I took them to Atlanta and I flew with Ciati, and now I have 1 working quad. So
yeah,
there you go.
I bet Ciati inspires that.
Ciati's a good dude, and he's fun. He had some good spots too, so he's fun to fly with. I see. This was happening during the last. There we go. Yeah, this was happening during the last live stream. When I go to switch windows, hang on, does it do it here? No, I got to Alt Tab. If I go to switch windows, Blunty is just a screen capture. He's not really here, but I was messing up your camera unintentionally during the last stream, so I'll try not to do that. Anyway, you know what else I'm gonna do? You're more comfortable now. You're more relaxed, and you've changed.
Oh, sorry.
You've changed your seating. Now I'm gonna fix it though, because I'm a professional live streamer. There we go. You know, you guys, I don't know if you know this. Whenever I set up the scene before the news, I always try and make sure that Blunty's head is about the same size mine is, so it doesn't look like one of us has like tiny head. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes here. All right. Let's do it. Let's talk about the news. Blunty, what do we got this week on the news?
All right, this week we got quite a bit of stuff. So we're going to talk about the YouTuber who got fined for the infractions by the FAA. That's going around.
How much did he get fined?
$182,004.
It's that last $4 that really gets you.
It's all counts, man.
All right.
The FAA has added some clarification to the recreational flyer rules, and that maybe is a good thing for us based on the remote ID rules. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Any news could be good news.
Video Aerial Systems has a new laser tag system out for sale for pre-order right now. And a couple other systems. FPV Combat looks like it's going to a fair soon, and that's an OSD-based system, so we'll talk about those. Wow.
People are always asking, can you do like aerial combat with drones? And I'm like, I don't know how you would even I'm really curious about these systems because I don't even see how you could. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very curious.
Well, that's what their job is.
Yeah, right.
So then we're going to talk a little bit about the Radiomaster receivers. There's some new Radiomaster receivers out and maybe competing with FrSky and not locked to firmware. Mm-hmm. Skyzone 04X module has some compatibility issues with cameras.
No, say it isn't so.
Yeah.
I really like that module.
I do too, man. It seems like it's really killer, but unfortunately they have had to add a mode to fix it, so we'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
We have a source that confirmed the V1 DJI FPV goggle is no longer in production. So we'll talk a little bit more about that.
All right. That could be good news. That could be terrible news.
Yeah. We're going to have our community spotlight of the week. That's going to be from our community member, Gal Kremer.
Uh-huh.
And we have the Ghost protocol. May have some issues at high update rates, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that because that's pretty nuanced.
Yeah. Pavel Swakowski is claiming there's this potential issue with Ghost that could cause bad failsafe issues. I got to fix this. I apologize. You guys are seeing table of contents in the video description. Did I not? No. There's no table of contents. I got that right. Okay. Somebody was asking about the table of contents. Sometimes I leave it in the description when I copy last week's stream. And then there's a table of contents for a live stream that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, so no, we're okay. All right, well, let's get started with... Get my show notes up. This freaking guy. Let me show you guys here. FAA fines. Oh, no, I can't have that. Hang on. Get rid of that. There we go. FAA fines Philadelphia drone pilot and YouTuber. It says 184,000. That was the first number to come out. It looks like the actual number is only 182,000. So he just made $2,000 as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. This guy is Philly Drone Life. Did you go watch any of the videos that he's accused?
Just a little bit, yeah. And it is blatant, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah. Blatant.
So, this guy was basically making videos where he was live streaming. And I think it's good to clarify, we'll talk a little bit about this, but the only videos he was fined for were the live streams. He has posted videos that he was not fined for. And so that kind of has some implications here possibly, but he was fined directly for 123 different infractions.
Individual infractions.
Individual infractions totaling is $182,000, including flying over 400 feet, flying through fog or rain, flying without a license, flying BVLOS, all these different rules, obviously that we're not all supposed to do, and they basically totaled them up. And that's where he's facing these fines for. I think it's interesting to point out, though, right, that that these were all the live stream videos. And so I think
that's interesting because there's no specific difference between an uploaded video and a live streamed video. Who knows why the FAA seems to have focused on those? So
I watched this guy Steve Leto. He does Leto's Law, and he went over this rule, and his take on this was that it's possible that you can't prove statute of limitations on an uploaded video. And so it was much easier for them to prove statute of limitations on the live streams because they were posted with a date and time.
That's fascinating. I've heard a similar argument that, like, let's say, like, my favorite example is when Casey Neistat flew what's believed to be a drone over the Harbor Bridge in Sydney. And people said, oh, that's dangerous. You shouldn't do that. And I thought, you don't know that that was a drone. Like, if you're Casey, I'm not saying he did this. I think it was a drone. But if you're Casey Neistat and you're a freaking millionaire and you just want to seem like a badass who doesn't give a F about the law, he could have hired a helicopter. He could have hired a professional drone company. He could have had permits. You just don't know that what you're seeing on the video is what happened. Yeah. And that plausible deniability has always seemed to me like, like, could the FAA really fine you? How do they know you didn't have a spotter? How do they know, like you said, the statute of limitations, what day of the week it was or the month or the year?
Yeah, it must be much easier for them to prove a live stream. That's what I would guess. You know, because you have a documented date, you have a documented time, you have people that saw it, so it'll always be there. You know, it's not easy. You know, I think, yeah, to me, it makes so much more sense. Now, I think maybe we should talk about the content that he made real quick.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because Johnny DRC says, is he in the wrong or not? What content did he make?
Now, I think most of us would think, I don't know, I guess, I think personally that this is stuff we shouldn't be doing. This is a camera drone in the middle of New York City or wherever he's located.
Philly.
Philly, that's right, Philly. In the middle of Philly, he's looking at the tops of skyscrapers.
He's chasing cars on the street, not like
chasing cars
at altitude.
Right, but still, he's over cars, over people on the street. You know, there's certain rules where, like, I think you have to take people's safety into account, right? Like, we all as people, personal people, take people's safety into account. So, like, even if you want to rip downtown and break some rules ripping downtown, you do it with not trying to hit people. And I think there were a lot of situations in these videos that I don't think that was accounted for in his decision.
I also feel like, as a professional, I will always obey and support all of the laws. But as I understand that there are things people do that break the law that are not really harmful. And, like, so if you're flying in a park under the trees without a spotter, like, oh, who cares? And it seems like the stuff he was doing, some of it I feel like was over my line of putting other people at risk. Others of it was, like, technically illegal, but I don't personally care.
Sure, yeah, but I don't know that I agree with all 123 fines. You know, like, we don't necessarily know what they are either individually, but I am sure that I don't agree with all of them. I do think maybe there were some things. I think, go ahead.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. I've talked to other people who claim to know more about the situation, and it's like the FAA did not come out of nowhere and just slap him with $180,000 in fines. I'm told, and this is all speculation, but hey, welcome to the news. I'm told by other people who claim to know about the situation that he had been receiving letters and receiving warnings, and that is consistent with my understanding of other people who have been contacted by the FAA. They don't just slap you with a fine. They send you a letter and say, hey, you're under investigation. Please give us a call. And you call them and they go, don't do that anymore. And maybe they give you a small fine, but they seldom, I've never heard of a case. So I'm thinking that he was blowing him off for a long time before they finally got here.
Yep. And, you know, it's possible he thought he could do that because he only had 4,000 subscribers. You know, that's, you know, he thought, hey, I'm not a target. There's all these guys with 1 million subscribers and they're breaking rules on and off and, you know, they don't get in trouble, so I'm probably fine, you know.
Yeah. The big one was that he didn't have a 107. That, I think, is the biggest reason they went after him. They do not. Yeah. I've seen other YouTubers say, hey, I got a call from the FAA. They told me I needed to have a 107. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. And basically, as part of their settlement with the FAA, they have to make this big public statement because the FAA wants to get the word out. So I've seen videos from other people about that.
No, so I think we should consider, like, do we think this will be happening more? Like, is this an example that they're setting? Are we expecting anybody who's live streaming drone footage to be, you know, under fire here when before they might not have, you know?
If your channel is monetized, then you're supposed to have a 107. That's a fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And if you, I think that the FAA's enforcement, they don't have a ton of resources for enforcement. I'm pretty sure of that. So I think this guy was just so flagrantly breaking the rules, and I think people just started reporting him, and then they were finally like, okay, we have to not, we can't ignore this guy. We're going to pay attention to him. Yeah. So yeah, don't be I think the takeaway from this for me is when you get a letter from the FAA, stop breaking the law.
Yeah, work with
I'm
the
not saying
FAA
don't break the law.
and probably find a way not to get 123 infractions if you can help it. You know, I think ignoring a government entity when they send you information is typically not great because most of them don't give up. So
yeah. All right. Well, good luck. Good luck to Mikey. I feel bad to anybody who gets a $180,000 fine from the government. That is a life-ruining thing. But the things he's saying, like people on the Discord are saying, that he's like, the rules are always changed. He made some statement. I didn't watch it. I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. The rules are always changing. It's like, no, you didn't know what the rules were. And my point is, I have a very firm policy, Blunty. I always want to know when I'm breaking the law.
Sure.
Like if you're riding in the car with me and you have a pound of heroin in your pocket, I feel like I should know that because I'm breaking the law now. So I'm not saying I'll kick you out of my car. That's, maybe we'll work it out. But I just don't. You need to know when you're breaking the law. And if you don't know by the way, you don't have a pound of heroin. Okay, good.
No. Also, would not fit in your pocket.
You have big pockets. They're like cargo pants. If you're flying a drone, there are laws that relate to that. And if you choose to break those laws, that's between you and your lawyer and the government. But if you don't know what the laws are and you're breaking them without knowing it, that's how you end up with $180,000 in fines.
100%.
All right. There you go.
So moving on from the FAA stuff, moving on with the FAA stuff, rather, they also added some clarification to their recreational flyers rule. Now, previously, the recreational flyers rule included at the bottom of it that you had to take an aeronautical safety test. And it looks like now they've added a section at the bottom to clarify that aeronautical safety test will come eventually, because I've had that question a few times, but also that the FAA is planning to issue guidance for how it will recognize community-based organizations. And as we know, community-based organizations are the ones who will issue the FRIAs. Yeah,
that's the big deal here, because the FRIA, the areas where you're allowed to fly without remote ID on your drone, which, in my opinion, that's just a distraction to keep us from being as mad as we should be, but never mind. The existence of those is decided by a CBO, and since there are no official, everybody assumes the AMA is a CBO, but there hasn't been any official statement about how to define a CBO, and so they're finally going to do that.
Yeah, it's good to know that they are going to give us some guidance on that. They are going to push forward with that, because I think a lot of us are expecting them to put the final rules out and have it be very difficult to be a CBO or have specifically defined things that make only a few places CBOs. And then, as we know, the FRIA rule would, as it stands before, it would expire. And so we wouldn't have these FRIAs to fly.
So the idea some people have had is, well, fine, I'm a CBO, I'm a community-based organization. It's Bardwell. People have asked me, Bardwell, will you just become a CBO and designate your yard as a FRIA? And I'm like, I'm down, but I am not a community-based organization. But even if that were true, FRIAs explicitly expire and grandfather out of existence. They're designed to do that, so they are not. We shouldn't just count on them to save us from remote ID.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, keep it up. I'm waiting for sometime in December. The actual ruling is supposed to come out, and we'll all know just how screwed we are. So. Tree limb addiction. No. Josh R says, my rule of thumb is break one law at a time.
Yes.
Don't speed and have weed in your car. Although if you live in Denver, you're allowed to have weed in your car these days. But that pound of heroin is still just about, how big would it be? No, I'm just teasing. I'm just messing around.
So next up, we're going to talk about VAS, Video Aero Systems, has a laser tag combat system.
Okay.
And so that's going to be, that second link there.
Yeah.
So they actually patented this system quite a while ago, and they are finally bringing it to market. They teased this a long time ago, and now they're selling it.
Oh my God, it's built into the OSD and everything. Hang on, can I full screen this? It's built into the screen and everything. You can see the shots. Whoa. Now, is this a multi-rotor? This is a multi-rotor. He's got it on here. It has ammo? You have a little ammo indicator? This is way cooler than I thought it was going to be.
So that's so the second link. So you're looking at the FPV combat system. I apologize.
Oh, my bad. This is the FPV combat. This is not the video aerial system.
Yeah, so this one is not out yet. This is a separate OSD board system, and the solution for this is as you see. So this is essentially you wire in an OSD board in line, and then it tracks with sensors and such. Yeah, everything you see here.
All right, let's look at the video aerial system one. Is that here's the video aerial system one. So this is from Alex Grieve. Yeah, yes. The guy who makes all the antennas that we love.
Yes.
Does this have a video? He doesn't have a video up. Come on, we need this.
There is a video on that channel. I'll pull it real quick, I believe.
Let's see. We will put. I will after the show, guys. I go to the video description and I add timestamps, and I'll put these links down there. So if you want to find these links, you can come on. I should put them in the video description before the show, and that would be a super responsible thing to do. But I have not done it. So there you go.
Yeah, so this is meant for planes mainly, but it also definitely works for drones and stuff too. And the goal of the VAS system is essentially that I believe it shakes your PWM signals, so you can feel the hits.
What?
Yeah.
It literally shakes your quad or your airplane when you get hit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Motor stutter, trim manipulation, and disabled weapon systems.
So they could you could get shot in the wing, and then your airplane could kind of list to the left or have less power.
Yeah, no, getting shot will reduce your opponent's speed. LED strips flash to show your hits. Yeah, it's pretty well developed, man. They've had this patent for a while. And they've definitely been working on it.
Interesting. I've often wondered how good these systems could be on multi-rotors, because multi-rotors are so maneuverable that it seems like actually getting a beat on somebody would be really tricky. But who knows, man? So that's VAS and the FPV, the air combat one. Is there a third one?
FPV combat. Well, so the other thing I was thinking about is when we were doing this, I just thought it was interesting because I looked back through and there's actually some old toys that did this.
Yeah.
A company released some Star Wars toys that did laser tag as well and tracked hits that were drones. I thought that was pretty
2 years ago.
Yeah, stuff I've just had never heard of the concept, and now.
This is also a multi-rotor, isn't it? It looks like an X-wing, but it's a multi-rotor. Is that right?
Yep.
Cute.
And it has a normal little transmitter.
Oh, look at that! For this product shot, I think they took the props off just to make it look better. That's really nice. That's really nice. All right. Well, if you've always, I think that there are some people out there who are like, why would anyone do this? But I get this question way more than you might imagine. Can we do dogfighting? Now apparently you can. So there you go.
Yeah.
Pretty slick. Oh, Skadoosh is here. Hello, Skadoosh. Oh, let me play the video aerial systems video. Thank you to Mr. Huggy in the Discord for sharing that. I showed the other one. I feel like I owe it to Alex Grieve to also show his system. So this is Alex Grieve's video. I'm going to turn the music off because I don't want to get copyright strike. Oh, they got lights too and a night camera. Yeah, see, it's so tricky. How do you know? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, well, that's how it goes. I imagine that happened in real life too. So Video Aerial Systems doesn't have the cool OSD, but it has the ability to make the plane actually fly worse when you get shot, which is pretty slick.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like two different concepts. I don't know if that may be because of the patent and the way it's written. Yeah.
And the Video Aerial Systems. Sorry for talking over you.
You're good. I just think it's cool to see this development in the quad space.
Yeah. The Video Aerial Systems one directly interacts with the PWM signals, so it would not be able to do the list to the left or anything. I don't know, maybe it would. All right, cool. Yeah, dogfighting in real life must be pretty hard. Brandon's Baked Beans, you're 100% right about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I got to stop doing that. I'm making your camera disappear. Where is the flippin' window with the flippin'? There we go. With the show notes. I need a fourth screen, everybody. I need a fourth screen. That's it. This is the line. All right. What do we got? Radiomaster receivers. So are you tired of the BS with FrSky's receivers? Hey, Blunty, thank you for confirming this for me, by the way. XM Plus. If you guys bought an XM Plus recently and it won't bind, XM Plus seem now to be shipping with firmware 2.1 on them. So if you have older firmware on your radio, it won't bind until you update the firmware. So Radiomaster has come out with their own line of receivers. Jumper did this a little while back and had their own receivers. Now Radiomaster is coming out with their own. Look at that. The Radiomaster R81 8-channel FrSky D8 compatible nano receiver. I wish it was D16.
Yeah, basically their version of XM Plus, but yeah, it's only D8.
That's too bad. D16 has SmartPort telemetry, which of course I prefer.
Yeah, they do have a D16 version, but unfortunately the D16 version is about 7 grams and looks like it's made for wings. Here's
the D16. Oh yeah, no, that's Radiomaster. What's up? I guess that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I wouldn't run that. It's only $10. You could decase it.
The price is great.
You could decase it. I bet you could decase it, huh? What do you think?
I'm sure you could. Yeah, I don't know how much smaller it's really going to get, but you could definitely decase it.
I would decase it. Then it would be fine. That seems a little too big, but yeah, $10. Radiomaster 16-channel receiver. Okay. You think they're doing like the Jumper R1 receiver is a clone of a FrSky XSR. It runs the same firmware and everything. You think Radiomaster is doing the same thing?
I would assume so. Yeah. I mean, all the vendors that I've seen are calling it like equivalent to XM Plus. So it seems like that's how they're rolling with it. Which makes sense to me.
David Gregorian wants to know what firmware do you use with the Jumper R1F receiver. The Jumper R1 receiver is a clone of the FrSky XSR. And so presumably it's the XSR F-port firmware, presumably. I mean, I don't know
I believe
for
you
sure.
can use, I think you can use any of those, but I'm not sure about the new ones, like the 2.x. I'm not sure.
Yeah. There you go. You know, the other FrSky receiver, FrSky Archer receivers, I'm glad they're finally selling receivers with access and 2.1 pre-flashed. So if you are in the FrSky world and you have an access radio, look at the Archer receivers, I would say. All right.
So Skyzone 04X module is having some compatibility issues with cameras. They're having some rolling issues. I guess there's issues with the mixing. And so they have implemented a fix currently, which is just a diversity mode, a standard diversity mode. So they're not mixing anymore while they try to figure it out.
Yeah, so the mix mode is basically I call it unicorn magic, the rapid fire, fusion, and Clearview. Credit to Clearview for being the first one to do this, where instead of switching between the antennas, they combine the frames and do sync reconstruction and other things. And I was actually really impressed with the performance of the rapid fire and the Eachine. It's the same module, the Eachine EV300O and the Skyzone Sky 04X. I was really impressed with the performance of that module. However, it doesn't surprise me. When rapid fire first came out, they had this issue with the rolling screen, and rapid fire has a way they're dealing with it. So I'm kind of not too surprised to find out Skyzone is having the same struggles.
Yep, it seems like this is just something they're going to have to figure out, do a bunch of internal testing and go through and just try to troubleshoot all these cameras. Because obviously they didn't see this in testing, so it's got to be specific cameras, and they're going to have to go back through all the information and stuff. This was posted on the 24th, I believe. 26th. So we still don't have a fix out yet, and it's been about a week. So hopefully they'll have one soon.
Yeah, the challenge, I think, is that the sync pulses, what's happening here is the module is trying to reconstruct the sync pulses so that when the sync pulse is damaged by interference or low RSSI, the image stays stable. And instead of seeing a rolling image, you see a distorted image, but it's still kind of there and you could fly through it. But the problem is that if the sync pulse from the camera is not the way that the module expects, then the module will reconstruct the sync pulse in an incorrect way and cause the screen to roll. And the quality standards for our cameras are all over the place. So, and I'm sure when they did their testing, they tested on like 2 cameras. Like, I'm sure they did not buy like every camera on the market and test them all. Like, I just doubt that they did that. So, oh well. Well, anyway, if you have the Skyzone Sky 04X or the Eachine EV300O and you've had this problem, there's a firmware that fixes it by switching you over to diversity mode, which performs much worse. But, you know, I'm sure they'll fix it. Yeah, I hope they'll fix it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what else we got? What do we got today?
So we got a source confirming that the V1 DJI FPV goggle is no longer in production.
Yeah, a source. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess.
Depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. GepRC.
GepRC, yep. I messaged GepRC because we had some other confirmation. And we basically got a double confirmation back from GepRC that they are saying the V1 goggle is discontinued. And
yeah. For the record, credit to you, because we were going back and forth about, is this true? And you were like, well, why don't I just ask them? So kudos. And also, you didn't like ask them off the record or anything. You just said, they don't even like that. You were just like, hey, and they just told you.
Yeah, they don't know who I am. I'm just a guy. So
right.
Yeah. I am surprised less and less how often that works. It seems like anytime you need to know some information, you can just start asking people and they will tell you. Especially these Chinese people seem to want to share this information for some reason, which is fine. It doesn't seem like they're keeping it very close to the chest. So
then the question, I mean, yeah, they were even just like, yeah, this is a terrible decision. We didn't like this. The question then is, does this mean that DJI Goggle V2 is on the horizon? This seems like the most compelling evidence so far.
Yeah, I think we talked about before a couple of weeks ago, I think, about the Vista shortages based on Huawei. And I'm expecting what happened here. I don't know, this is speculation, but I'm expecting what happened is that they had shortages on the V1 goggles they weren't expecting. So they didn't overproduce the V1 goggles to prepare for a chipset limitation they didn't know they were going to have. And they don't feel like it makes sense now to spin back up the tooling to get all the V1 goggles produced again before they dump the V2 on the market. So I think that's why we're seeing a V1 gap. I don't know, but that's my theory.
I mean, the
V1s,
the V1s were gone for a while, and then people got stock of them again, and I heard some people wondering whether that rumor was true, but it sounds like this is recent information from GepRC. So, I mean, Skadoosh says, I've contacted HOM, or is it HOM or HOM? I'm not sure. He's in charge of the DJI FPV HD project. He has not responded. I wouldn't be surprised if DJI was not going to confirm it directly, especially not to you, Skadoosh. You are a well-known leaker, by which I mean you once told me something in private, and then I mentioned it on a live stream. So if you do find out anything from him, don't tell me.
I think what I would say is, regardless, like, for them to be discontinued, there has to be a V2 goggle coming, or that's bad information. Like, because I think we've seen the tease of the controller, we've seen the FPV drone go back and forth, and different rumors about the FPV drone. I just don't see them dropping the FPV system out of nowhere here.
I don't see it. They seem
so if the V1 is truly discontinued, I think that only leaves one option. So
there you go. Well, then the next thing is what's going to be in the V, because they wouldn't release a V2 if it wasn't. My number one ask for the V2, is it OLED screens or is it HDMI out? It's got to be HDMI out, right? That's got to be the thing everybody wants.
Yeah, I think I would probably rather have the OLED screens, but the HDMI out is a close second. It's just so nice to be able to get good footage out of those goggles.
Yeah.
But OLED screens, I mean, especially a high resolution, it looks so good. Native OLED to the like you do 1080 in the screens, OLED native to the camera resolution, looks so good.
it's painful going back to the HDO2s or the Orcas or the Skyzone Sky 4X, any of these OLED goggles. You put them back on and you're like, oh, the screen looks so good, but the image looks so bad. The camera is why do I have to decide? Well, anyway, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah. They've been so resistant to do HDMI out before. I almost think they won't do it. Like, they won't sell that box. They could, but they won't. So, I don't know.
Yeah. They do have to tool up. I mean, you have to tool up to do those boxes. Like,
yeah.
You know, so there is some factor there. It's not like they could just pump them out without any work.
Maybe the reason that they won't sell the box is because they're going to put it in the V2 and they want to save it.
True. Yeah, the other thing is, like, I think a lot of people think they just want to dump smart controllers. And we don't necessarily know when the smart controllers were manufactured. So maybe they're just trying to clear smart controllers out.
Do they not really make the smart controllers anymore?
Oh, we just don't know how many they make or how many they sell. You know, maybe they had a backlog and they're like, let's move some smart controllers.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. Yeah. All right. Well, if the DJI Goggle V2 has HDMI out, then everybody who spent $700 on a smart controller is going to be super angry.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants a smart controller. I mean, like, one guy out there has a Mavic and wants a smart controller, but everybody else is just using it as a screen, and there's no reason to spend $700 on a freaking HDMI screen. So we will see.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We're getting close to the end. Yeah, community spotlight. So every week we do a community spotlight, not an FPV video, but a project or utility among the community that we think is very, very worth it. And today we're going to highlight a project from Gal Kremer. Now, Gal Kremer has a YouTube channel. I'll show you his YouTube channel in a second. And of course, I'll put it down in the show notes below after the show is over. You'll have to come back. He's got this tool here which takes the logs from your OpenTX radio and turns them into subtitles. Let me show you an example of what this looks like. Now, Blunty, did you know, we're not talking about black box logs here. Did you know that your OpenTX radio can actually store flight logs on the SD card?
I did, only because I have DJI, so I'm worried about GPS data. And so I've been logging GPS data with the OpenTX telemetry. But I had never considered doing something like this.
So he actually is going to show you here how to set it up. That's great. You need to set up a special function. I think he's going to show you how to set it up, I'm going to guess. And you can watch the video. Yeah, there you go. Special function to to log. And then when you do that on your SD card are going to be these CSV files. And then this utility that he's made. Let's look at the grand reveal. All right. Oh, he's gonna plug his Patreon. Okay, fine, good. Do I not show me the video? Is it at the beginning? He put it at the beginning, maybe. There it is. You get a freaking subtitle file, just like you get out of the DJI, but it's for your Betaflight telemetry. So that's really slick. Thank you, Gal, for that.
Basically, append in all your extra subtitles so it can look like, look like you actually have proper OSD out of the DJI goggles.
Nice, because DJI doesn't store the Betaflight OSD information.
Yeah, for some reason they don't actually save that information to a log or to the subtitle file. It's just the base DJI information. So
I wish they would. That would be really slick.
Yep.
Didn't. Cool. Well, thank you, Gal Kremer, for that. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Should really set up the show notes before the show. Okay, mental note. This is only show 5. Can you believe this is show 5?
Episode 5, man.
Yeah.
It's going pretty quick, honestly.
Yeah. Let me put a link in the chat. That's really the least I can do to his thing. Nah, just you guys can figure it out, right? Let me put a link to his video in the chat. All right, here we go. There's a link in the chat. Cool. All right, last topic, and this topic is, by the way, you found this topic, and I think it's a really cool one, so I really appreciate you finding that. I'm going to show this clip from Pavel Spikowski's live stream, because Pavel Spikowski is making a claim about ImmersionRC Ghost having a failsafe problem a failure mode that compromises safety. Let's look at his claim, and then let's talk about what we think about that. Pavel, please don't copy strike me. All right, let me
send
this.
one after another. So in one frame you can get channels from 1 to 4, and then
Let me back it up slightly.
Protocol. What's Ghost doing with the GHST protocol? They are sending always 4 channels with the full resolution of the stick. Basically, channel 1 to 4 are sent as always, and then the rest of the channel they are sent one after another. So in one frame you can get channels from 1 to 4, and then from 5 to 8, and the next frame you will get 1 to 4, and from 9 to 12. What's really the problem with this kind of approach that kinda you were, I think, pretty right discovering last weekend?
Yeah, when I was reading up on the Ghost protocol implementation and details, it suddenly occurred to me that because of some weird glitch, we might always lose, for instance, channels 5 to 8.
And why this is
We
a
will
bad
always
thing?
get our sticks.
Why this is a bad thing?
Why? Imagine in this condition seeing that you are going to fly straight into the crowd of people. You flip the disarm switch and nothing happens. The quad just doesn't disarm.
Why?
Because the arming channel was channel 5, which flight control is not receiving.
Because of some kind of weird glitch, and that.
Okay, so let's. I mean, you just heard them talk about it. Let's dissect the scenario here, okay? And then we'll talk about what we think of that. And then before the live stream, I actually asked Tony Cake, the owner of ImmersionRC and the inventor of Ghost, what he thought of this. I believe it involved the word bollocks. What are bollocks? Where's that word from? Let's break it down, Tony. What are they claiming is the risk here?
Okay, so the world that they're saying is possible here is that essentially you have some issue with modulation on the same frequency you're communicating on the transmitter with. And so every other packet somehow, like maybe it's got half the update rate, or maybe there's some other issue, right, a random bug, right, that causes only half the packets to show up to the drone. So from the radio to the drone. So only half your packets are getting interfered with. Now, on a normal quad or a normal receiver like situation, you would be getting all 8 or all 12 of your channels together, each packet. And so that means that if you didn't see them and you did see them and you didn't see them and you did see them, you would be able to get updates for each of your switches each time you get the packets back. But they're proposing a situation in which, because each packet only sends 4 of the aux channels instead of all 8, and it alternates, that if every other packet was basically blocked or interfered with, then you would not be able to do things like disarm if disarm was aux 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and what they're proposing is a thing that I can't think of a protocol that I know 100% does it, but it is a thing that has been done in the past, that you need the maximum possible refresh rate for your sticks because your stick latency directly influences stick feel. But how fast are you going to flip an aux switch? So you just send the aux channels every other packet or every third packet, and by making the packets smaller, you can then have a higher update rate and basically, you get better performance. The first thing that I thought when I heard this is, what kind of scenario, like you've got these packets and they're at, whatever, 150 hertz or 200 hertz. How are you going to imagine a scenario where exactly every other packet is corrupted? Their theory is that because the sticks are still coming in, the flight controller won't know that you're having a problem, and it'll just think, oh, you're armed. And you're like, disarm, disarm, and nothing is happening. Like, what are the chances that, like, one of those packets wouldn't get through? I don't know.
So the only scenario I can imagine, right, is that you have, let's say and something they describe is, right, you're flying into a crowd of people, okay? And you shouldn't be doing that, but you're flying towards a crowd of people,
Okay.
right? And you need to disarm before you hit the crowd of people. And that's a
Okay.
second or two that you have to make this decision.
Right.
At that second, someone powers up a transmitter and blasts the air. Okay, so maybe you get 5% of your packets or 10% of your packets. Well, if those 10% don't have the aux channel in it, maybe they're not enough to failsafe your quad in the second, but they are enough to maintain the stick so that you don't get a failsafe on the receiver.
So
that's a scenario. Yeah.
I guess the question here then is, how does the flight controller know that a failsafe should be occurring?
It should be receiving the failsafe flag from the receiver, right? But if the receiver is seeing the sticks, right?
Let's talk about that in a second. The failsafe flag. Talk about that in a second. That's actually another interesting part of this. Imagine that you've got a scenario where all of the packets are being corrupted. So let's say you've got a protocol that sends the aux channels every frame, and all of the packets are being corrupted. Well, guess what? You still are going to fly into that hypothetical crowd because your disarm didn't get through. So this is not a Ghost-specific situation. The theoretical probability of exactly half of your packets getting corrupted so your aux doesn't get through is the same as the real possibility of all of your packets getting corrupted. And the question is, when do you failsafe, and how do you know that a failsafe has occurred and the quad should disarm or fly home or something?
Right. Now, I might be wrong, but I do believe that in some flight controllers, I'm not sure which ones, but some will, I don't know if Betaflight or INav, which ones do which, but I do believe that some of them will look at that incoming signal and make a decision based on no incoming receiver signal to do a failsafe.
Correct. Yeah. So there's two ways that failsafe. Yeah, go ahead.
And in that case, the point that Pavel was making was that you would failsafe in a situation where you had no packets, but you would not failsafe in a situation where you only had partial packets, because the receiver is still sending some packets to the flight controller, so the flight controller sees not long enough gap to hit the failsafe.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So there's two ways that a flight controller can know that a failsafe is happening. In one of them, like SBus does it this way, and I believe Crossfire does it this way as well. There's a failsafe bit, a failsafe flag inside the data stream. And when the receiver determines that failsafe has happened, the receiver sets the failsafe flag and the flight controller just says failsafe is happening. And that is not what Ghost does. So Ghost, and this goes back to the conversation I had with Tony just before the live stream, where I asked him for a response on this topic. His theory is that if you've got the receiver doing failsafe and the flight controller doing failsafe, then you get problems where maybe one of them thinks a failsafe has happened and one doesn't. And Ghost ran into this with the SRXL2 protocol in Betaflight, where Betaflight was thinking a failsafe happened and disarmed because Ghost wasn't sending updates as frequently as Betaflight wanted. And Tony's argument is the flight controller should be the one that determines when a failsafe happens, and not the receiver. But that goes back to what you're saying. If the flight controller is seeing the control sticks moving often enough to avoid a failsafe, could you get in a scenario where the aux channels are not getting through and you could not disarm?
Right. I think that seems to be the crux of the issue, is because like you said, in most cases, the receiver could decide because of LQ or because of whatever's happening, it needs to throw the failsafe flag, but because Ghost doesn't have a failsafe flag,
right,
we would never see that case. So unfortunately, you have to rely on the flight controller making decisions about the signal in. Yeah.
Well, so Tony said, that bollocks. Suffice it to say, I do know what bollocks means. I was joking. That bollocks. He says, he assumes that I send half the aux channels over the air. I don't. I send all of them. Now, I don't know who's right or who's wrong here, because Pavel is an INav developer, and INav presumably supports Ghost, and he's implemented Ghost support in INav, so I guess he should know. But Tony's argument is that this failure mode where half the aux channels are getting blocked isn't actually possible.
Yeah, the reason that Pavel and Konstantin brought this up was because Konstantin was troubleshooting this issue in INav and noticed that the way he saw the protocol coming in could cause this failure situation. So I'm not sure if he was confused about how he was seeing it, or if what exactly is happening here in the disconnect. But yeah, I think it's at least something we should let people know is possible. You know, like something that people say is possible, and get both sides of the scenario here. So
the other thing that Tony said, and by the way, I reached out to Pavel as well, but it was like 20 minutes before the stream, so he didn't have time to get back to me. But the other thing Tony said was, he said, we've been working with the X-Blades. X-Blades is a drone racing team for DCL in Europe, and Tony works with them. He said they're basically the test bed for Ghost. The 3 or 4 hours we spend every day working with the X-Blades technical team, beating the crap out of the system, not only the stuff that's shipping, but the stuff that's coming. So Tony's argument seems to be that maybe Pavel has or Konstantin have a technical misunderstanding. Maybe they're technically right, but in reality, it's an edge case that doesn't really exist, and he feels like it's solid. So
yeah, yep,
yeah.
If it is an edge, I think the only thing to say is if it's an edge case, then we just have to decide how we want to handle edge cases, right? Because I think a lot of people design so that even in the edge case you're protected, versus even in the edge case it's kind of up to the situation. So if there is any world in which, in 1 out of a million times, you could hit somebody because you couldn't disarm, I do think it is a valid criticism. The question is, can that happen? And I think that's where we're having the issue.
Well, the flip side of the counter argument of that I'll make is that you could always come up with an edge case and be like, well, what if this happened? What if, while you were flying, the solder joint on your disarm switch came undone because and then you couldn't disarm? Well, I mean, so if this is, in fact, like an extreme edge case, it seems to me like Pavel is a little bit down on Ghost. I don't know. He seems to have been pretty critical of it in some ways, and not all of them I think I agree with. So I can't, although he did say Tracer lost in terms of range, so that seems like he's not totally biased. It seems like...
I'll say the switch idea is actually a good point, because in, like, if you're doing like a process work or something, and like I do HVAC, you know, you do things where you fail open or you fail closed, so that in the worst scenario, no matter what happens, you're just failing so that nothing can break or hurt someone. But it's interesting to consider the fact that there is no fail open or closed on an arm switch. It just fails. It just fails. Like if it were to break and the arm switch was open to arm, then it would still be open when it broke. So it wouldn't. But if you had it closed, then it would break. And, you know, and you would disarm. So.
I'm still thinking about this, and I can't figure out how arm switches are ever supposed to tell you whether you fail-safed. They can't, because they don't move normally. Your fail-safe always has to be determined either by a fail-safe flag set by the receiver or by lack of motion. But even lack of motion on the main channels, well, if you're just not moving your sticks very much, you can't fail-safe because the sticks weren't moving. So how do they figure out when fail-safe, if you don't have a fail-safe flag set by the receiver, how does the flight controller even figure out that a fail-safe is happening anyway?
I believe it's based on packets that are dropped.
It's missing packets.
Right. And the problem is if it misses the right half, right, then you don't get the aux channel update, but it still doesn't fail safe.
But shouldn't it just be % of missed packets?
Well, the point is, but if you're at 20% missed packets, and those 20% are packets that are on the half that only has the good aux,
but then you still have 30% of the ones of that half.
But none of them have the arm switch. That's the idea.
I think it's pretty. I think maybe it could happen, but it's pretty. It's pretty freaking. I don't know. Anyway,
super edge case, that's for sure.
All right, so Pavel has come up with this super edge case. Pavel and Konstantin have come up with this super edge case, and Tony says it's a load of crap, and they're actually wrong about the way the packets are transmitted, and that it doesn't happen in real life. But isn't that an interesting way to close out the live stream? Oh, man. Okay. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the stream and the end of the news for this week. If you guys have anything you think we need to be talking about, email news@fpvknowitall.com with news items for the segment. We will be back next week at 6 p.m., same time, same slot. There you go.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to plug real quick. I am doing a live stream on Wednesdays now.
Oh, yeah?
At 6 p.m. PST on my channel.
Oh, basically immediately after this.
No, Wednesday.
PST. Oh, Wednesdays. I'm sorry. Is it Wednesday? No. My mistake.
Yeah, so tomorrow, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. PST on my channel, I'll be doing a Q&A and talk about live stream, kind of more open, free, whatever you guys want to talk about.
Nice.
This will be my third one this week, so if anybody wants
how
to swing
are
by,
they going?
check that out. Great, man.
How many viewers you getting?
Like 60, 70 people showing up.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, a lot of guys here in the chat as well, so...
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, you're more than welcome. We should put a link to that in the show notes too. Do you have a link handy? Is the event page made yet?
Yes. Yeah, I'll put it up real quick.
Paste that in the chat for sure.
Cool.
Hey, one more thing. We got 5 more minutes till 7. I guess this is an hour stream. The first one was shorter, but what did you watch the Beagle Drone interview? What'd you think of the Beagle Drone interview?
I did. I thought it was really good, man. I thought you were super like as hard hitting as you needed to be. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think that interview can go a variety of ways, and I felt like it went a good way. That's what I will say. I think that as far as if we talk about the Beagle perspective of things, like how do we feel about what he said and his perspective on things, I personally have to say that I think he's an extremely inexperienced business person, and I think that he is holding back some information that he doesn't want to just like say to ruin some public facing image that he has, because it's easier to avoid saying something than burn a bridge or like shoot himself in the foot.
Oh, you think there might be more to, like, why is he still selling Emax red bottoms in 2020? You think
Right.
there's something else there?
Yeah, well, we don't know, and that's the problem. Is like I don't think he has the why would he tell us? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The one thing I want to point out is that to me, the biggest issue is if you're a startup company like that and you care about getting drones to people, okay?
Yeah.
To me, branding is less important than getting a drone to a person at a reasonable price and repairing it at a reasonable rate and providing a service for someone.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he was having issues getting MOQ when you can spend $500 anywhere and get MOQ on motors means that he was trying to buy branded motors with his name on them and spend a lot more money to do that.
They've done that. They have
Yeah.
custom packaging. If you look
Right.
at the review videos, they have custom packaging and stickers on batteries and stuff. I think you might be right. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and that was just my situation on it was because he didn't make the concessions. He felt he needed to brand everything. And so that it ruined his margins. It pushed the sales down. It made him look worse as a company. And then he stuck with this quantity that he bought because he finally got up the money to buy a branded quantity of a shitty product because he wanted to spend so little money to get the product. Like, that's to me the world that we live in, and that's bad business. That's a misunderstanding of business from a young person. To me, I'm only 30, but I think I've made enough mistakes to know that's not how you run a business.
That's deep, man.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Because if it were me, I would have instead bought drone parts and sold Bind and Flies as a private website and then build a brand based on that. Then as you build money and brand and trust, then you start to brand things. Then you start to make deals with companies, and then you can actually start to do this thing like he wanted to do. To me, it was like jumping the gun with nothing.
I think I get the read. I get the read on him that he is like he or someone on his team is like a super smart entrepreneur business enthusiast. It feels like, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe he's just the face of the company. I don't know. But it feels to me like someone who is driving that company wants to make a company first and sell FPV products second. I would have said they don't care about FPV at all, but I actually feel like he sincerely sounded like an FPV enthusiast and a pilot, but that he seemed more interested in making a company with branding and marketing, and whoever they've got doing that is really good at it.
Yeah.
Your idea, I wonder if 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they came into a pile of money and they just bought 5,000 ZMR 250 frames and thought, we're going to sell the crap out of these. And now they are still going. I wonder if they're still going through ZMR 250 frames they bought 3 years ago, and that's why they still sell it.
He said, well, like 2 a week or, 2 a month. 2 a week, I think is what he said. So, if you're only selling 2 a week and you buy 1,000 of them, you've definitely still got some in a box.
I wonder that actually, because I'm like, why haven't they gone to some other DYS Samguk, some other cheap motor that's more modern? I wonder if you're onto something there. Anyway. Skadoosh, the idea that they have some kind of a backer. That was my first read when I saw their CNBC business thing, was that this is my first read, and I don't think this is right, but this was my first read, was that this kid started a company and somebody else with money got behind him and is trying to like make him go public and make a ton of money off of a public offering. I think now that actually, if anyone's doing that, it's him or his people.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's the case, it's something I would term dumb money, because typically, like, somebody with money who's making an investment like that would know well enough, like the market. You know, they would understand what they're getting into and putting that capital into.
Yeah.
And you don't I don't know. To me, this didn't make sense to begin with. And you would have filed bankruptcy, and like, there's so many different things that would have happened. Like, I feel like if you had a real investor and they only sold 2 units a week for however long.
Yeah.
So
anyway, yeah. Lava Chemist says they're apparently paying YouTubers to make outrageous positive claims. For what it's worth, he said in the interview that they didn't pay anybody. He said they don't pay anybody. Of course, that could be a lie, but anyway, all right, guys, we did it. We filled out the rest of the hour. Blunty, thank you so much. I will see you next week. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are looking forward to it. I hope you'll see us here. Thank you to Get Seeds right here for a $20 super chat. Don't forget to check out Blunty's website. YouTube won't let me link it, but he can tell the chat what it is. I know you try not to promote your businesses on the stream, but it's a $20 super chat. You want to plug your website real quick?
Sure, man. I run a small quad parts website called WeSellQuadParts.com. WeSellQuadParts.com. And I just have a few items. I'm waiting on a restock for TBS right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I just sell parts that I think are good. I sell them at a reasonable price, the normal manufacturer price. And I'm not trying to make a bunch of money. It's just a little bit of a side hustle. And kind of so I have parts around. It's kind of nice to have parts
you said, I asked you earlier if you were like, hey, dude, you want to plug your website? And you were like, no. I like to I'm doing my thing over here. I got my, so, but I figured for a $20 super chat, we were obliged. So.
Yeah, I do appreciate that super chat.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's going to do it for this week. One more thing. I always forget to plug this. If you are a patron, I upload these and my live streams as a podcast on my Patreon page. So if you needed a reason to sign up as a patron, there's a link in the video description, as little as $2 a month. And if you don't get to watch them live, you can listen to them on your podcast reader. Happy flying, everybody. We are out.